Can we see the slide? What makes a good money? The best way to understand this is to just look into the history of money. Thank you. And what we find is good money is money that keeps the value stored for people. So people choose something, whatever it is, that stores the value. And since the value is better stored in things that are hard to produce, usually the hard money is good money. Something that is hard to produce is good money. Something that is hard to produce drives out something that is easy to produce. Why is that? Because if you go and store something in money and it is easy to produce, when everybody comes storing their value in that money, the demand will rise, the price, the value of that good will increase, and thus bringing a big incentive to produce more of that specific entity, right? So if it's easy to produce, everybody will produce more, and then there will be no use case as a store of value anymore because the value will just crash down. And the money that we have right now is just a check today, global Bloomberg News, global debt of 244 trillion. I'm not sure if you can, humans have a big problem grasping large numbers. I think none of us understands this number really. But I think it's 3 times the global economy. So it's more debt than what we produce. And it's an interesting fact. So if we look back into what money naturally is, then we see that there are 4 steps for something to become money. And it starts with a collectible. So before you use something as money, you just collect it. The second step then is once you collect it, is a good store of value. That means at a later point you can exchange it and it still has the value. And so it becomes a medium of exchange. And ultimately, then it's finally money. It's a unit of account. So we have the prices in it and we really use it in daily trade. And one of the first ever money tokens was a Flintstone, perhaps. And maybe you can imagine, like when you were running in the Stone Age, hunting for meat in the morning or in the evening or whatever, then this was a good money. Why? Because it's very rare. It's a very scarce thing. You don't find it so easy every day. So you had to kind of, by chance, get one or search for it for a longer time, and then you got one. But it has awesome intrinsic value. Why? Because you can make fire with it, right? You can make fire with it, and so it's a great technology. It's a great asset. It has value intrinsic, but also it's portable and it's a small form factor. So you can take it, travel, go to the next tribe, and when you're traveling, you don't have time to hunt, so also you're exhausted. So you exchange this token for meat, and there you have it. It's a collectible, it's a store of value, and it's a medium of exchange. And then over history, of course, what was good money? It was cattle, because it's hard to produce. It has been, that's an interesting story that you maybe encounter if you're in blockchain conferences, because blockchain people like to refer to this, because this is a rice-stone, a limestone with a hole inside that we found on the island of Yap, which a researcher dedicated his life to find out what this is about, and what he found was that they used these big stones as money because they were also hard to produce, right? And you couldn't duplicate it so easy. Interesting fact, I think there was another story about this, that they actually had a public ledger because you can't transport it. So they knew, okay, John had 1 stone, but they couldn't move it, so they instead made a mark in the ledger, in the balance sheet, and they knew always they could refer to the stones. So it's basically the first appearance of a blockchain-like system. And then we also see shells being used as money. It's called primitive money, so it's really one of the first appearances. Pepper and salt. Actually, the word salary is referred from salt because employees got paid in salt, because back then it was a very scarce and precious resource, not anymore today. And the bottom one here is our glass beads from West Africa, glass pearls, that they used as money because it was a precious token that kept the value, until the point when Westerners came from Europe and they found that they were using these glass beads. So they said, hey, for us it's easy to produce, it's not a scarce resource in Europe, we're gonna bring a lot of these glass beads, and we're gonna buy the whole market, and they did. And so they also referred as the slaves bead because they could buy the slaves with the money, with the inflated money. And ultimately, over 5,000 years, it turned out that gold and silver is one of the best money ever found because the resource is very scarce, it is transportable, it is divisible, and you can't manipulate you can't produce it easy. Now, if you think about our money, our national currency, the average supply growth of national currencies between 1960 and 2015 was up 32% per year. And this ultimately is the question that you have to ask yourself: what is good money? If it's easy to produce, there is a high risk that it's not a good store of value anymore, right? And that's what you have to ask yourself. Bitcoin has a so-called difficulty adjustment that determines with a software code how much more money will be created, and that's decreasing over time slowly but surely. And so the last Bitcoin will be mined in the year 2140, and then there will never be more Bitcoin than 21 million. In comparison, gold has an inflation rate of 2% roughly. And I think Bitcoin right now is already, I think it's higher right now, but in the next 10 years it will be lower than gold. And yeah, we can believe that it might be a very good store of value if you consider these naturally given features that something has to have in order to become good money. And this is the last chart that shows a prediction, basically, about the adoption curve of money. And you can maybe see, I don't have a laser, but there's the star that's supposed to be where we are right now. So first it created digital scarcity. It's a token that was trying to imitate a scarce resource in a digital way. It is immutably, it is irreversible. The transactions are put in the blockchain and can't be changed anymore. And so people started using Bitcoin for fun when it didn't have a market price yet. They just thought, it's an interesting technology. Let's have some of these Bitcoins. Maybe it becomes something bigger in the future. And then it just turned out it is quite a powerful technology. It is truly censorship resistant. And then speculation brought more and more people into it, brought more people attracted, piqued interest. And now we're basically already, I would say, in the second phase, where now we go back for the first, where it is, this is the big question, right? Is it a good store of value? The price goes up and down. Some people hold Bitcoin for the very long term because they believe it's going to be a good store of value. And it's always relative when you got in, right? And it might be that at some point it becomes more reliable. The higher the market cap, the more people join the network. Of course, the harder it is to speculate and to change the price. So it might become a reliable store of value. And then it's just a next step until it's a widespread medium exchange and finally a global money. And that's also what I want to give you before I'm finishing here. This is a very interesting chart, which is the so-called HODL wave. I don't know how many of you guys know what hodling stands for. You probably maybe heard of it. Okay, not so many. So hodling is an insider joke of the Bitcoin community because after the big drop in price in 2011, 2012, don't remember, from $1,000 to, I don't know, $200, there was a person on the internet and he was really frustrated because he put a lot of money in it, but he said, I don't care, I'm at home now, a lot of my money is gone, but I'm gonna hold. But he's misspelled it and said hodl, and since the day it's referred to the strategy to don't care so much about the price, because the bet that you do with Bitcoin is a more fundamental one. It's one that goes for a long term and that has an interesting side effect of, it is uncensorable money. It's a big experiment that the world has never seen yet. We'll talk about this more tomorrow. And so hodling is hold on for dear life. And what you can see on this chart here, the black one is the Bitcoin price. And if we are here in the red zone, the red color, this means those are Bitcoins that are transacted within a day, let's say, or 5 days. And the whole scope here, the y-axis is how much of the whole supply of Bitcoin. So in the beginning, this is the beginning of Bitcoin. The red axis goes from top to down. That means all Bitcoins were transacted the next day. And then it dropped. So the more we get into the blue, those are Bitcoins that aren't transacted whatsoever for 5 years. And so what you can see coming here down is these blue layers. they basically show you that more and more of the total supply of Bitcoin is not moved anymore. Now, it could be because people lost their private keys, but it could also indicate and show and depict what's happening, that people see this as a good store of value and hold it for the long time. And now it's almost approaching 50%, and we're going to see what's happening in the next 10 years, that this might be even bigger, the blue line. And I think this is one of the most interesting charts in Bitcoin that shows that people believe Bitcoin might be the ultimate store of value, because the inflation rate, the supply, is not in the hand of a central banker or of a person, of an organization. Instead, it's put in a math code that is immutable, that is in code and cannot be changed anymore, which makes it risk-free of inflation. It's not printable money. It has amazing features. And yeah, that's so far a little introduction into what money is, how it evolved naturally from the market, and you can make up your own mind about what a good money might be and what a bad money might be, and if Bitcoin might be a good money. And if you want to learn more, make sure tomorrow, I don't know, Mogdan, 2 p.m., 1 p.m., roundabout, I will give another more extended keynote on why Bitcoin is something you should really consider, not just as an investment, not just as an experiment, but there are a lot of implications that some of you might not know, not aware yet, that I will refer to and present. So if you're interested to learn more about this, then feel very welcome tomorrow. Thank you very much, and have a fantastic conference.